IVM.
Welcome to Absolutely Right, the first graphology-based podcast show in India. I am your host Aditi Surana. I am a graphologist and a high-performance coach. To make the most of this show, grab a notepad or diary where you've written something in your natural style. Let me clarify. Greeting cards, formal letters, legal or bank forms cannot be counted. As we all know, we write there in a formal, neat, and basically pretentious manner. So though these samples may work for a professional graphologist, at this point, when you're really exploring this beautiful subject, you must stick to a natural handwriting sample. In each episode, I will be dropping some graphology truth bombs. Go ahead, check if that trait, that stroke is present in your writing or not. If you find the stroke, then let me know how much do you agree with my description of your personality. Make a picture of your handwriting stroke and tag me. My Instagram handle is @Aditi Surana. Remember to do this if you do not agree with me and ask me a question. I am very confident that if you identify the stroke correctly, then the analysis must match. In short, challenge accepted. Bring it on. As you may already know, on our Wednesday episodes, you get to join a live handwriting analysis session with our guest. Today we have a gold medalist microbiologist, Jayasmita Dutta, who along with her day job at JSK Vaccines, also runs a fashion and lifestyle blog on Instagram called Sari_Nari. She is also an LGBT ally and trainer and one curious cat with innumerable questions about graphology. As you listen to today's episode, make sure that you check out our new segments on the show. Autograph Please, where I describe how exactly the guest is misunderstood by people around them by analyzing their signatures. And Graphology Tool of the Week, where I present a specific handwriting stroke and decode what it means for you to wear a graphologist's hat. Jayasmita will join us on the other side of this short break. Stay tuned.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to an awesome, amazing, incredible week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please do. Why aren't you? You should. It's absolutely essential that you do. It's IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Another fun week in the books last week, and I think you guys should definitely check out some of the shows that we did. So first, let me tell you about Cock and Bull. We did 2 Cock and Bulls on Cyrus Says last week, which is, I don't think we've ever done before, but there was just so much to talk about, and it was fun. The first one was just on Thrish, myself, and Cyrus. The second one, we had Abhijit Ganguly on, and that was a great episode. Do check that out. Check out Know Your Kanun as well. It's been a while since I spoke about that show, but Amber's been doing a great job on it. This week he spoke to Naina Sharma, a Canadian lawyer, about the ways that you do business in Canada and the challenges that presents. Definitely very interesting stuff. Do check that out. The guys at Naan Curry are doing some really, really fun stuff. Do check out their latest episode. They talk about roti, the simple bread, but it's got some complications to it. Let them tell you about what they are. Do check that out. Also, do definitely check out the Wire Talks with Siddharth Bhatia. He's been killing it, man. It's just a new show, but what great conversations. This week, he had Siddharth Singh on to talk about pollution. Do check that out. And you know what, guys? The best news of all, Simplified is back. They've been back for a few weeks and I haven't called them out before, but remember that they're back and do check them out. This week, they talk about, does censorship make sense? Knowing the guys, I think I know the answer to that, but you should go check that out. And with that, let's go back to your show.
So hi, Jayasmita. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Aditi. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
I have your handwriting in front of me. Shoot, what questions do you want me to answer? And I know you've been very, very curious about this topic. So go ahead. I'm all ready.
I mean, the way handwriting can unravel your personalities and those kind of things, it's pretty intriguing. And I think I love the fact that you're doing it. And thank you for this opportunity as well. So I have a lot of questions and I think it's just the curiosity that builds in when you actually give your sample to somebody. It's just like how you're sitting in front of a palmist and wo kya bolega, you don't know. So
before we go ahead, I'm going to interrupt you here. This is exactly how handwriting is different, because when you sit in front of an astrologer or a palmist or anybody who can predict future, they actually have a complete insight into where your life going to go and the trajectory of it. Whereas graphology, fortunately, does not allow us to do that. And I'm saying fortunately very carefully because this is a psychological analysis. So I'm going to talk about your personality, the nuances of why you think the way you do. And I always feel that, even if you know where your life gonna go, it's almost like a road which is pre-decided. Whereas if
All
you're in
right.
the driving seat, you can't do much about the road, but you can do a lot about how you'll drive your car, which is your personality. So if we look
Lovely.
at your handwriting and your personality correlation, then based on my feedback, you can really change your driving style and probably be able to deal with whatever road shows up in a better way. That's the whole attempt.
So isn't it just like how we say living in the moment?
No, it cannot be, because wherever you are right now comes from all your childhood learnings, your parental treatment, your conditioning. So when you show up right now in the moment, we are never in the moment. We are
Yeah,
actually part of a lot more than the moment, right? We
true.
have the whole journey with us. So even if I look at your writing right now, it talks about your past behavioral patterns. So not what happened, but how you built up your, say, fears, your
Wow.
challenges, your actual uh, fear-based mechanisms, all of that as a result of your behavior. It shows up.
Wow. So tell me, Aditi, isn't it like, we have a lot of psychometric tests, right, based on NLPs and those kind of things. So how does graphology fit in this whole thing? Because that also tells a lot about your
Personality.
characteristics and personality.
So I would say graphology is very, very close to psychometric testing. So when you look at any other psychometric test, you are given most of the time a question and multiple choice answers, right?
Yep.
And you pick one of them and you are thinking about two things. One, what would I like to know about myself by answering this one? Also, what the test is thinking about me when I answer this one. Have you gone
True.
through those tests?
Yes, I have. I have done couple of them.
I'm certified into four of them, like MBTI and Pyrobi and others. So I learned all of them to make sure that I bring in more structure to graphology, because it's also a psychometric assessment, which otherwise we do not have as a robust research-based structure to give a report, or to kind of come up with a complete assessment of a personality. So in my research, when I was trying to bring graphology up to the speed, I did all other testing.
Oh, wow. So,
So
Aditi, that brings me to one question here, and it's just again a curiosity. So, in these NLP based programs, we are asked similar questions multiple times to see, how are we answering, etc. So, and I see that our handwriting, at least my handwriting, changes a lot.
yes.
So and it depends on my mood, it depends on the purpose I'm writing it. So if I'm writing a very formal one, I will consciously write it. Where I'm writing just something casually, it can just go haywire. So and similar to NLP, so we are also doing it based on our mood, etc. So
So
how this works?
So handwriting has three parts. One is where you actually do not change in certain aspects. So the pressure of your writing is very, very difficult to alter. Even if you decide to do that, when it comes to writing with that kind of vigor that you show, is how you think and how you live. So it's very difficult for somebody to change. You have things which keep changing every 3 to 6 years, which means when you go through a transition from school
Yeah,
to college, your
yeah.
handwriting changed, you remember?
Yes, of course.
Then after college, so this is very, very clear distinction. It happens to all of us. But even in school, every 3 to 4 years, your handwriting went through some kind of
True,
change, because as a person you are changing. And because
true.
it reflects, it talks about it. Now, why I prefer handwriting over other psychometric tests, here is a reason. It also talks about the momentary mood swings in your writing. For example, your handwriting
Mm,
size changes every now and then. When you're writing on
yeah,
a formal letter is different, you're writing casually, making notes, making to do, it keeps changing. The
correct.
slant also varies a bit, like whether it tilts to the right or straight, and there is a variation there. Now, those are the things which, and many other, actually talk about your temporary mindset. Right now, what is
All
happening
right.
this week. So when I meet my clients every 2 weeks, I literally look at the sample and talk about, oh, these 2 weeks were XYZ. And they're like, how do you know? Because handwriting captures it. No magic, no skill like that. It's just the study that is so accurate.
Wow. That's really interesting. And when you say that there is this temporary side, are there also permanent side to your handwriting, like something which doesn't change at all?
like your pressure. There are so many other minute things which, for example, you cannot alter the
Ah,
spacing between your letters, the spacing between your words. It is subconscious. You cannot consciously
okay.
control it, but it gives away so much of information. So it's fascinating.
Wow.
So let me
It's
get to your
really,
writing.
yeah, let's do that. Let's just dive in.
Let's dive in.
Yeah.
So tell me, when we look at your self-esteem, I'm looking at a very particular stroke. Now, in handwriting, the way you cross your T's, there is a phrase, right? The way you dot your I's and cross your T's is very, very important. And most of the time, people talk about that because they're talking about detailing, somebody who would pay attention. But in graphology, when we look at one single letter T, there are
Yeah.
more than 52 ways of writing it. Now I'm going to pick up your T and talk about two, three aspects of it. First,
All right.
you cut your T really, really high. Now by high,
Mm-hmm.
I mean it barely touches the vertical line. So when it touches the vertical line, it's flying to the right. So it's almost like somebody who has dreamed so high, she wants to fly with it, and she's on the edge of the building and she wants to jump off and believes in her wings, and she's so willing to jump off that so many times relating to everyday life becomes so difficult, boring, and uninteresting.
So true, Aditi. Oh my God. That's like a mirror. You're holding a mirror in front of me.
Oh. So let's look at this aspect, and I feel I
Yes.
can talk about so many uh, ambitions, so many achievements, so many challenges that can be described or in a way decoded by this one particular stroke. Okay,
All
now
right.
when we look at your desire being very, very high, you think 10 years down the line with anything you do. So if you're starting a project, you say, okay, if I do this, after 10 years, I will achieve this. After 10 years or 12 years, we will buy a house here. We will build this property. Now, your ideas are very vivid and very, very clear. They're also impractical in the moment.
Oh my God. Tell me about it.
Yes. So when you actually go and talk to people about it, they are like, yeah, whatever, this may happen, may not happen. And you feel impatient while talking to them. You're like,
Yes.
why don't you get it? I'm trying to explain this. This is so simple. Because in your head, it's very, very simple, but
Yeah.
not for these people around you.
Yeah.
And they,
That's where, Aditi, sorry to cut you. I think
no,
that's where
no.
I get misunderstood so much.
Yes. I can totally understand. I can totally understand.
Because, the way I'm portraying, for me, like you said, it's so simple. It's so simple to window shop. I have grown up window shopping, so I'm window shopping those ideas. But when I'm trying to show them that what I have put in my wish list, it's just not visible.
Yep, true. And this is where your impatience to explain things to them gets to you and kind of creates the hassle that you are, mostly confronted with. Now, I'm going to take a step back and talk about the kind of hassle that you go through. Now,
Mm-hmm.
impatience also brings in that particular stroke that I was talking about when T is written in a way that the horizontal line flies
Mm-hmm.
on the right side, like flies off on the right side. It talks about temper.
All right.
So when you get impatient, you also get temperamental. And
Mm.
with temperamental behavior comes the fear and edgy feeling in other people's minds around you, and they do not know when you would burst. And they're
Yeah.
constantly kind of weighing their steps into the conversation and then going back and weighing again and going back. And though your pain is real, their fear is also real.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is like, sometimes I'm feeling, when you're saying this whole thing, I'm also thinking that, oh, yeah, it is so true because there are facts which I don't realize otherwise. And when you're saying it, it is so true, and that's how people react.
And then you wonder because you do not see it
Yeah.
like that. You're like, but I'm trying to make a point and it is so important for me. And that's why I'm losing my mind. In your case, in your mind, that the story is very linear. But this is where we have to really pay attention. Most of the
Correct.
time, when our stories are real, they're one sided. Though we are feeling hurt about it, our stories are one sided. Now, it is very important every now and then for us to step away from our stories and understand what was happening here. Oh, I lost my mind, but was the other person really responsible for it? Because we cannot know that in the moment. you can know that before the moment or after the moment. So imagine a soldier who wants to really, really win the war. He
Yeah.
cannot be working out on the field. He has to work
Correct.
out before the war or after the war. If he starts working out on the field to build his muscles, that's not going to help. So
Absolutely.
similarly, I would highly recommend anybody who has a stroke like that and looks at, temper as a concern, please journal around this question. It's really, really helpful because when you're temperamental, let's accept you are impatient. Not only
Yeah.
you, everybody, all of
Yeah.
us. When we are temperamental, we are impatient, we are controlling the situation, we are aggressive. We do
True.
not want to back off because with temper comes our ego activated defense mechanisms. So we don't want to budge. We become really,
Yeah.
really strong and stubborn.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Now,
are. It's a series of chemical reactions leading to a hydrogen bomb.
exactly. And that is so automatic because there is no control.
Yeah.
So when your temper ticks off, not yours, again, I'm saying this over and over
Yeah,
again
yeah, I
because it's not
understand. I
personal. It's
understand.
more of like a description of a trait. So all of
Exactly.
us, when we get temperamental, we get into this zone of being like a wall that other people cannot break. So the
True.
journaling question here, which I feel can come really handy, is ask yourself, if I had to look at that situation again, what would I choose? And
Yeah.
do that after you're calm, after you're cooled down. But look at that, like, because when we get temperamental, we do not most of the time achieve the final objective,
True.
which is to move forward or convey the idea that you really wanted to, or get the other person on board to move forward and have fun. That's the whole
True.
idea. You want to dream big and you want to achieve more so that you can be
True.
happier than where you are. But in the
True.
process, if we get really wired up, if we get really stuck, then we are not happy through the process. And then there is no idea. And I say this a lot, I have rarely seen people who struggle through the journey and suddenly became happy when they achieved their goal. Most
True.
people who I found got their, kind of so-called formula or mantra for happiness really enjoyed the journey. And though it was tough and it was really, really difficult for them to walk through it, they crawled through it, but they were really happy about the process. Now,
Absolutely. I think,
here,
sorry, Aditi, continue.
so here is what I want to bring in. Now, because so many times you get really excited about the end result, that big dream, that big idea, you do not get as committed to the process as you would like to.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is really counterintuitive for you, especially, but another side of your personality that comes from the way you write your letter M. When you
Okay.
write your letter M, the stroke has two humps, which is like this, how McDonald has those big
Yes.
humps in the letter M. Now, if you write your M with that kind of curves, that means you really love to gather information and do research. And I'm sure you have so many books around and material gathered that one day you want to read, but you
Yeah.
haven't read it yet. But and that need for information and research is very crucial, which
Yeah.
also shows that you enjoy processes. That also shows that once you get into the groove and your own rhythm, then just being able to do things and just being able to be in the process is what your actual achievement or excitement or love comes from. So tell me, what do you do when
Oh
you
my God. Yeah. Tell me, what do I do?
yeah,
Sorry.
you tell me, what do you do with that kind of engagement? Which are the activities that you pick up?
So see, I have always been like that. I love books around me. So even if you have to probably write an answer in my college days or school days, so I would not go to the textbook. I would go to different avenues which are around me. Can be an encyclopedia, can be those other books, history books, and then I'll gather information because I feel, I must know the entirety, the
Yes.
totality of it. So that is, yeah, I think that is very well picked up. And right now, in our kind of lifestyle where we don't read too much books, at least I don't get time to. Very, very wrongly said. Of course, I don't, but I would want to.
Yeah.
but I keep collecting. And when I collect these books, I pick say a paragraph or two, or say a chapter, and I'll read those chapters which actually I really want to.
Sure.
And that I will keep reminiscing and probably write a journal or do a doodling about it. So I keep doing these kind of research, not just with books, but with many other things as well. So even if I have to buy, like I said, my window shopping list is super high. uh, so things are in the wait list and wish list. So
Yeah.
yeah, like that. That's how I am. And I never realized this trait of mine, Aditi, unless you told, because we don't speak about these things out loud.
Most
So
of the time we don't, right? We do not objectively look at ourselves. Like
yeah,
when you buy a device like a phone or anything, it comes with a manual. Our
yeah.
personalities have no manuals and we have no clue how to operate this machine. Most of the time we keep struggling and we just live by.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what has happened in motherhood also. If you see that it comes without any manual, it comes with nuskhas and those kind of things which has been passed on for generation. And then you feel some things are so illogical, so where do you find logic about it? So that's where I started actually reading after I became a mom, to understand why certain things are certain ways.
Sure, sure. So let's get to our next segment with where I actually look at your signatures to talk about
Uh-huh.
your personality. But here, signatures talk about your public image. So they do not talk about who you are as much as handwriting does. But signatures
Okay.
are like, you know, how when we step out of our houses, we suddenly have that formal behavior mask. Now, along with the COVID mask, we also have carried this for generation.
Yeah.
The mask of like when somebody asks, how are you? We mostly say, I'm fine because that's the mask is trained into. But these are obvious things.
Yeah.
The mask also has multiple minute things which most people are unaware of. We project ourselves in a certain way, but we are very, very different. Now, signature can give us that information. So, in the segment Autograph Please, I'm going to talk about how people misunderstand you more than anything else.
Oh yes, tell me.
So I'm going to say certain things, and after that, do tell me your experience with actually being misunderstood in that particular way, okay? So when you are in public, people genuinely feel, and I'm talking about women around you, they genuinely feel that you are constantly comparing them with you and you're very competitive. Whereas in life, you're not. You're
I'm
like,
not.
why are they constantly bothering me? And they feel they have to like be one up. Whereas that is not my thinking and that's not how I look at these women or the situation. I'm just being myself, but they do feel intimidated and they get into competition with you.
True. That's so, so true.
So tell us, when did you feel this? When were you really surrounded by female competition?
I see that happened all my life in my college. Okay,
Okay.
so somehow, like I told you, I went by researching, right? I studied with research, and I used to score. I never studied too much, so all my college life I stood first. Okay,
Wow.
and without studying much. So imagine, I partied, I did everything, and and I never wanted to become first. I really wanted to give the people who are actually having 100% attendance, and where I used to just cross the mark and those kind of things. So and they never could, and I never tried to, but it just happened. So they thought that I'm extremely competitive. So
Yep.
while I was actually not at all, and I felt actually very sad when I used to go up the stage and grab the shield, whatever they gave me, because there were these other girls who
Girls.
came
Yeah.
100% with 100% attendance, which is out of the world. I never had it. They used to really study the books. They used to really study the books. What I concentrated was on presentation. I used to give my answers in such a way that the other person actually understood what I wrote, not write and write and write. So
Now I wanna interrupt you here, and that is
yeah,
exactly what happens even now. When you're surrounded with women, now understand this. Your public image or your signature talks about it. Thereby, you got to really look at this situation and compensate for it easily. For example, if you're surrounded by women, this is natural for them to feel intimidated by your presence,
yeah,
not
it
because
does
you're
happen.
doing anything.
Yeah, it does happen even now, Aditi, and I think it just continues having. That was the college incident. This happens now, where uh, say I like growing or leading by example, or taking good examples from others. So if
Right.
I try taking, say, I compliment somebody and I say you've done something really nice, and I would like to take it, they would say that I'm competing with them.
Yep.
You know,
Now,
so but
now
that
please,
is not my intent at all.
but even if that is not your intent, that comes in your public image, and
Yeah,
thereby people constantly feel that. For example, all of us do it in some or other ways. Like we have yellow signal on our heads when we are actually blue colors, and
yeah,
we have that yellow signal, and we keep calling people who are looking for yellow.
true.
We are not aware, we are blue. So when people come and they say, okay, are you the yellow I was looking for, you're like, no, I'm the blue, what are you talking about? So in your case, you're not competitive as a person, and I don't see that in your handwriting. So thereby, as a person, you're not, but in your signature you do show the trait to be, very very open, and in a way intimidating to the same sex. A very particular trait in your writing that says that. Now what you can do about it,
Yeah.
the first thing first is, when you are surrounded with women, just mentally, like, probably you have to walk that extra mile to just make them comfortable.
Okay. So is there any way I can change my signature then? Like anything that I can do to, see, like you said, it just exhibits what I feel or how I am and what my subconscious is. So can I do something, some kind of a practice to that changes it?
So, signature being a public image is a mask. So, I believe when you really
Ah,
want to change something in your mask, you first
got
build
it.
the skill within. So, if
Yes.
you change the personality, so we design signatures based on certain personality assessments. I would look at your writing first for a few days, change certain things in your writing, and along with that, slowly steadily change the signature. I give it 42 days because I feel it's a identity shift, right? It is not changing
Yeah.
one behavior, it's an entire identity that you're moving. So
Yeah.
it requires a lot of intensity. And because graphology, or graphotherapy as we call this subject, is very very minute, and it's simple in a way, and we're like, but who writes nowadays? Most of the time people do not feel it
True.
could work, but it does. And for me, I have seen the case studies after case studies after case studies. So for me, it's like the obvious truth. I wish I can
Yeah.
communicate this enough and people can try this enough for them to really see how they can shift so many struggles, like
Yeah.
the obvious struggle of fighting with other women around you has been part of your life, and you have felt that with close relationships, with social
Exactly.
circles, and
Yeah.
you wondered all along, why is it happening? Why can't we get it right?
True.
Why is it so important? Now, all of these questions can be answered right there.
True. And yeah, Aditi, just when you talk about it, it also says you also mentioned that I'm pretty open about things, right? Which is true, and that also intimidates people, and that's so surprising because I think we are more we are conditioned in such a way that we are very subdued. Women have to be in certain behave in certain way, or they have to abide by the social norms and societal things, where I'm trying to question everything, and that also intimidates people.
And I feel that one thing, about you is so strong, so clear, so evident, then no matter what happens, do not change that. Now, what happens with other people, because they can't accept us, we start molding ourselves in ways that we
Yeah.
become something else. Now, that is a problem. Most of the struggles that you experience, Jasmita, come from the fact that you do not want to give up on who you are. And I
True.
think that is incredible. And that comes from the fact that what I was describing in your letter T, you really have very high self esteem. So when your T is cut, or when you actually place your horizontal line up high on that vertical line, that shows your self belief is very, very high, naturally inborn. It's not something that you have done, just like this is how you believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Now, because you believe in yourself, when others do not believe in you, you do not want to give up the ideas, the dreams, the ideologies. Now, what you got to practice, and that requires a lot of patience, which you really have to cultivate, but you
Yes.
really got to practice how to break your large ideas into bite-sized pieces for people around you to digest. And that is not because your ideas are less important. That's because you really want these people to come with you. And when you break those bigger ideas into small bite-sized pieces for them to understand what is expected from them right now, they will be able to really make sense of the situation.
Wow. Aditi, that's so true. That brings me to my mental health struggle too, because that's what I'm struggling with. And I have never understood why I'm struggling with mental health. I have been diagnosed with dysthymia for such a long time. I have been on medication for such a long time. It's been more than 4 years now. And just that last month, I just stopped all my medications because nothing just worked. And I thought, okay, I will concentrate on my behavioral aspects. Let me take that journey inward. And I have not been able to find out the root cause. Aditi, it's right there. You just told me what it is.
Having
And
said
that I
that,
have to break the dreams into smaller pieces.
and you have to, that's one part. Second part is you also have to demonstrate your commitment by acting on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you give up on those ideas because other people are not excited about it, and then they do not trust you because you said it last time and you didn't do anything about it, and you said it and you didn't do anything about it. So in their minds, they feel that you say it but you don't do it. So break
Yeah.
it in digestible, small, bite-sized pieces for them and demonstrate the action. How you would do it for your daughter. You would break it for her so that she can understand. And then you'll also demonstrate the action because she has to see her mother do it for her to actually do it. Words won't stay with her if she doesn't see the act. Same with people
Absolutely.
in your case.
Absolutely. So tell me something now that you actually diagnosed this aspect and which is actually troubling my mental health. How does graphotherapy helps in these kind of things? So if I want to take it as an alternative to medication, how does that help? How would somebody take that journey?
So many times when people come and they're already seeing psychiatrists or they're actually on medication, I wouldn't stop the medication immediately. I would
Mhm.
create parallel behavioral patterns. So my research lies in graphotherapy. That's like my main passionate area of work. Graphology I love, and I keep saying that something I blush every time I talk about anybody's handwriting sample. But graphotherapy is where the medicine or treatment or therapy happens. So you got to use the strokes in a way that you can actually create a behavioral pattern. Now, any behavior is built up of multiple micro behaviors. So
Yeah.
you can't change one thing, like you can't change only your T and expect your self-esteem to go high because it's not a quick fix. It's not like,
True.
solving a problem just by a magic wand. That's not how it works. It is a behavioral treatment, thereby you practice a stroke over and over and over again. And while that is happening, in the session, I kind of ask you certain questions, give you certain tools for you to relook at your situation the way we did it just now.
Yeah.
You relook at the same situation of not being understood for your dreams with a different technique. Now, if I had to do it with graphotherapy, you would not fall back on being impatient as much as you do at this moment. Now, these are the ways in which we create a process
Got it.
as a two-way process. And then the changes, most of the time, people do not go back to their old behavioral patterns. And for me, that is very, very important. I'm very happy if people come to us with different issues. But if they come to us with the same issues, that means we didn't do the job in the previous module or something. So most of the time, people don't come back with
Yes.
same issues. Okay. Thank you
Great.
so much
Great. I
for
think
being on the
that's
show.
a good way. My pleasure. My pleasure, Aditi.
I know. Now, this is a disclaimer, okay? For next 48 hours, you're going to think about these words and these comments over and over again, at least for 48 hours. So do make notes and make sure that you ponder on the journaling question that I mentioned.
Absolutely. And I would
So on
do
the
that for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I'm really, really happy that this conversation went so open and really exploratory. Thank you.
It really helped me a lot. You see, I actually touched one of the beneath the iceberg areas.
So on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about Graphology tool of the week, where I'm going to talk about a specific trait, a stroke that can really help you understand how you look at your 24 hours in a day. I'll see you on the other side of the break.
Have you ever wondered how successful people do their thing? How do they navigate the challenges they often face? Are you wondering about the future of restaurants, film, education, technology, and everything else in between? Hi, I'm Gauri Devidayal, best known for being one of the brains behind The Table, an award-winning restaurant in Bombay. One thing my life as a restaurateur has given me is the opportunity to meet with some truly inspiring people, most often just by chatting with strangers at the community table. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about learning the new dimensions of business and understanding how different people swim this sea. It's an opportunity for me to pick their brains and ask them all the questions on my mind, whether it's about learning from their past experiences or talking about future trends. Through their journeys, stories, and insights, I hope you too, like me, will come away inspired and energized. So come, join me every Wednesday with your favorite drink, because this round is on me.
How did you like this conversation? Do you have the researcher M or the temper T? As I said, personalities do not come with manuals. At times, we spend many years with someone and we still fail to understand them. Let's learn the Graphology tool of the week to decode your own as well as someone else's personality further. Now, for this part, it will help if you have some handwriting samples in front of you. In today's case, a paragraph written spontaneously on an unruled paper would be just perfect. If you want the specific instructions I use while creating a handwriting sample and the diagrams of the traits I'm about to describe, then visit aditisurana.com/podcast and look for podcast number 77. Let's get to the stroke. Each morning when you wake up, you're given fresh, new 24 hours to do whatever you like. Technically speaking, you can do anything. But each one of us spends the same 24 hours in our unique style. We have different routines, habits, priorities. Let's take another example. Did you get a monthly or weekly allowance growing up? How did you spend it? Some kids spent it all. Others saved it all for something special. Some spent on temptations and others needed their best friend's approval before they made up their mind. Here the amount didn't matter. Back in the day, the same, say 100 rupees, meant a lot for all of us. Each child dealt with that treasure of 100 rupees in a different manner. I asked each client to write a handwriting sample on a blank unruled paper. Now you may think, that's simple. What's the big deal in writing on a blank paper? And how these examples are even connected. When researchers collected handwriting samples of hundreds of people, they found each person filled the page in a different manner. Graphologically speaking, unknowingly, you treat a blank sheet of paper exactly the way you treat your day. Now let me elaborate this point further. Instead of looking deeper into the writing, move it away from you. Stretch your hand and hold your writing sample in front of you at a distance, as if you're holding the Karwa Chauth wali channi to look at the moon, exactly that way. Now each page is filled in a peculiar way. There are more than 17 ways in which you can look at it. I'm going to talk about 3 ways right now. Option number 1. The writer fills the entire page end to end, edge to edge, utilizing each square centimeter on the paper as if it is some real estate, expensive real estate in South Bombay or South Delhi. Or it reminds you of the old sari store where the walls were filled to the ceiling with all the saris. This writing style is a sign of being workaholic. No play, only work. This writer struggles to accommodate other people's contrary points of view. Option number 2. On the contrary to the previous one, this writer leaves a lot of space all around the paragraph, say about 1.5 inches or 2. Feels like he is on a fortified island where he has built tall walls to protect himself. This style shows the writer is cautious with social interactions, transactions. They do not like to take any risk, as if walking closer to the edge of the page is equal to walking on the wall and someone may push them off into the sea. Option number 3. If you fold the right side of your page before you start writing to create a margin, the way some of us were taught in school or some government employees do it while writing applications or complaint letters, then that talks about your childhood or upbringing. This means the writer was brought up with too much discipline by their parents, grandparents, schools, even boarding school for that matter. And as an adult, even when you realize that you're not supposed to abide by the rules, you feel confined by them. If you haven't found any one of these options in your writing, don't be disheartened. Go ahead, find the trait in someone else's writing. Make people write after all these years. And remember, you got to tag me in your handwriting photograph. My Instagram handle is @Aditi Surana. Even while talking about this, I am smiling ear to ear. It's a privilege to introduce new people to the world of graphology. If you're intrigued by this conversation, then let me remind you that this month's Graphology Masterclass batch starts this Saturday on 5th of December. It is not a professional training, but specially designed for beginners to really understand themselves and the loved ones at a deeper level. It's a great way to detect your anxiety patterns and actually understand what goes inside your fears. All the details are mentioned on my website, aditisurana.com. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Absolutely Right. If you like this podcast, then don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. Last month, we launched many new shows. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are @IVM Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Let's connect on Friday. Till then, happy writing!
How many times have you motivated yourself to improve your sleep, or lose weight, or be more productive? How many times have you failed? Hi, my name is Ashton Doctor. Tune into my show, The Habit Coach Podcast, where we focus on creating small, tiny habits to improve your life instead of those big, impossible tasks. So make listening to me a habit every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com or on your favorite podcasting app.
Beta, did you know 79% of all scientists in NASA are Indian only?
देखो, इंडिया में टैक्स सिर्फ मिडिल क्लास भरती है. Everyone is just enjoying free यार.
आजकल के youngsters are only interested in partying and enjoying. उनको देश की पड़ी ही नहीं है.
बेटा तुम बस शादी कर लो, उसके बाद तो you can enjoy life like anything.
I will tell you what this country needs. This country needs 15 years of dictatorship. That is the only way to become a superpower. See the Chinese, how much they've progressed.
सुनो, तुमने ये WhatsApp forward देखा?
So what's common between all of these statements?
They're all absolutely rubbish.
Fake WhatsApp forwards that spread like wildfire.
And statements that defy any logic.
We are here to debunk them all.
Way of family WhatsApp groups, worst nightmare. Where what happens when you read a book.
Basically, we are just a bunch of guys who want to cut through the bullshit of everyone saying this, how it won't be true.
So that the next time someone confidently squeezes out some WhatsApp or Twitter BS, you will look them dead in the eye and go, Uncle, please sit.
So join me, Joel,
and me, Tushar,
every Mondays for a fresh new episode of Uncle, Please Sit.